All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello. I am Joe of the West.
And I am Zeal of Sparta.
And welcome everyone to the 19th installment of the Pseudo-Random podcast for August 13th, 2016. We actually have a lot of interesting stories, I think, today. But first, let's get the introductions out of the way. I'm Joe of the West, and you can find more information about me if you want at youtube.com/JoeoftheWest and twitter.com/JoeoftheWest. And what about you, Zeal?
Well, the same pretty much goes for me. YouTube.com/Zeal of Sparta for most of my pre-recorded videos. Twitter.com at Zeal of Sparta for more live commentary. You can also find me on Twitch. Look for Zeal of Sparta. And recently Beam.pro, which we'll talk more about later.
Okay. And I'll get you to update those in the show notes so that those are correct. But anyway, I guess without further ado, let's get with the first story. The first story is mine, and I will share my screen now. Okay, yeah. So anyway, No Man's Sky. It's a game that I've been looking forward to. It's been out on PS4 for a while. A lot of the bigger YouTubers have picked it up and started playing it. It looks pretty awesome. It's made by a company called Hello Games, and I will play a little bit of the trailer now. Let's silence that. We don't need to hear him talk about it. But anyway, I was really excited about this game, but if you look at the reviews on the PC side, there's a lot of complaints about it not being optimized.
Yes.
And slow stuttering frame rates. And so from what I've watched for the PS4 version, it looked amazing. But on the PC version, I'm not quite ready to spend $60 on it. And I know you had said something earlier to me about it, and I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I've been following it for a while now, and I like procedurally generated, randomly generated environments in worlds and whatnot. And this has been a bit of a hype train type of game where people have been hyping it up and filling in the blanks. And the developer, the head developer, he has been leading people on with a lot of vague comments on Twitter. And yeah, people are getting excited about it, but they may be inserting too much hype or speculation into what he's saying. Right. I've yet to play it, of course. I prefer to play it on the PC. I plan on getting it on the PC, but I'm going to wait a little while, considering how much it has an issue with each and every person's, or the majority of people's PCs as of late, or so it would seem.
Right. So that does concern me, because it looks like they just took the PS4 version and did a port over to a PC. There's a lot of tools that let you do that, but the product you get isn't ready for prime time. It's not something you want to actually try to use or try to actually put out to the world. I mean, maybe if it was some silly little, I don't know, no good examples are coming up. One of those cutesy games where you like run around, collect stuff or something like that. But this is a pretty intense game.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, the PS4, did I say PS2 earlier?
You said PS4, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the PS4, if I'm not mistaken, is a 8-core processor, and it's a pretty beefy system. I think it's technically somewhat better or somewhat more high spec than the Xbox. Well, it's a good bit higher from what I understand.
It's also more of a power hog too.
Right. But the point I'm making is most people don't have octa-core systems for their PCs.
No.
So, but anyway, and it's also, another complaint I've heard is it's supposed to be a multiplayer game, but the odds of you meeting another player are almost zero.
And I've seen reviews on Steam stating that it is impossible, or it's frankly unlikely.
Right.
Some people feel betrayed about it, which is unfortunate. The reviews of the game have went up from 52% to about 56% this morning and 57% as of now, 3:29 this afternoon.
Right.
So there's still a lot of ire being sub 48-hour old game as far as the port goes.
Right. So the other thing is, I think their multiplayer that they were talking about, which I think is kind of deceptive, was the fact that you find a planet, you scan the life forms, you get to name them, and I think the multiplayer aspect is when somebody else eventually stumbles upon your planet, they get to see what you've already submitted. So if you name a guy, if you find an animal and name him a poopy head, somebody's going to find your planet eventually and scan that animal, and it'll be named Poopy Head.
Oh, lovely.
So I think that's what the whole thing is on it. But anyway, I think I'm still going to get it, but I'm going to wait a little while on it, wait for them to get some of the bugs out. But I was ready to drop $60 on it, but obviously I'm not now.
Yeah, it looks really, really interesting, but I am in a holding pattern on it as well.
Okay.
At least for a month.
Well, the next story is yours. Do you have it up and ready for me to share your screen?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay.
All right.
So hello, everyone. How are you?
Pardon me. So this, I actually came across this morning. This is pretty fantastic, in my opinion. But the headline reads, on ZDNet, brain-controlled robots in VR help paraplegic patients feel and move limbs again. Yes, that sounds quite promising at first. And the article goes on to read in detail about the methods, or at least some of the methods that they were trying with this very small study that the Walk Again project, which was founded in 2013, has committed to. And this is kind of paraphrasing part of the study. The results of this project have went beyond their expectations, and some of these patients in this project have actually shown signs of recovery and are listed as partially paralyzed as opposed to completely paralyzed, which is quite cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, so do you think this is something to do with the fact that they're getting to use their brain again? And it because I know with other skills, if you don't use your brain, basically, I don't want to compare it to a muscle because it's not exactly the same thing, but it will atrophy. The pathways will basically revert back to a more undefined state.
Right. Like the saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. Exactly. So if you're not able to use those pathways, those neural pathways, your brain and body connection begins to weaken, so to speak. Right. But this project has been using a few different things, including robotic limbs and even Oculus for their VR headset, and I believe Autodesk Motion Builder, which is a virtual reality simulation software. And it just combines several different methods with these devices, and even basically there is like a harness where one can hover in the air and they'll try to move their legs. So they have the mechanically assisted legs, they have the virtually assisted motion that they're using the Oculus headset and the motion builder with, and they're even trying to dangle their legs using a skull cap, which you can see in this picture here, that transmits brainwaves into the machines to help them simulate it. And it's pretty cool because you basically get that effect of virtual reality, and it's like it's hard to describe it because I'm not paralyzed, but for these people, it's like they're more whole again. If I'm putting that correctly, it's pretty neat. And apparently their nerves are building back up to a somewhat more normal level, which is promising to me. This is only a study with 8 people in it, and they have not really gotten a clinical study started, but they would like to do that.
Yeah, this I've seen other and the other practical uses where they took somebody who had lost an arm or a hand or something, but it was all very simple things. Like you had a hand that could you thought about it hard enough, basically, it would pick up the impulses from your nerves that led to the damaged or missing limb.
Yes.
And it would squeeze or whatever. But these were all very basic, and it didn't pull it straight from your brain. So if you had damage like spinal damage, that wouldn't work, but this would.
Yeah, because it's getting it more directly from the brain.
Well, that's cool.
I think it has great potential, and there's not too much in terms of detail here, but it's been about 3 years. They started this, or they debuted it around the Rio or the Brazilian World Cup for soccer a few years back in 2013. But they've been working on it since, and they've made some progress. And there is a link to the reports in the article itself, which I suggest everybody check out. And I hope to see more out of this in the future.
Yeah, that's very exciting. But I guess speaking of suits, the next story is mine, and it's Happy Birthday Metroid.
Yay!
Yay! Happy 30th.
One of my favorite series.
Last week. The birthday was actually the same day we aired our last podcast. I didn't even think then to put it in there, but this is, I'm with you. This is one of my favorite Nintendo IPs. Probably, yeah. I don't know where I'd put it, because I would know. I would say it would be Zelda, Metroid, then Mario. But they've taken the Zelda franchise and really, I don't like it as much anymore.
It's got some shining stars, and it's got some, well, brown dwarves.
Right. But this isn't about Zelda. This is about Samus.
Yes, one part of the trifecta, the Nintendo trifecta, to me.
Yep. So, did you know, and you do if you're looking at the screen, that the Morph Ball was created because the programmers couldn't make Samus crawl?
Really? I did not know that.
It's difficult to animate someone getting down on their hands and knees on a Nintendo and crawling somewhere. But it's easy to make a ball spin.
Yeah, it's a simple sprite. Yep.
And that the name Metroid comes from Metro and Android.
Oh.
And I'm not going to read all these.
The Metro part, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to read all these because there's like 30 of them. But this one I definitely believe. Super Metroid was intended to be the last installment, because the later ones, while they're okay, in my opinion, you're a big fan, I think, of the ones that came after it. They felt like they were add-ons.
They did, kind of. I would have to say, though, Metroid Prime felt kind of new in that it branched off into a new franchise for the Metroid universe, whereas Metroid Fusion, felt more or less completely new for the franchise, and it was its own separate thing that was pretty cool as well. But some of the others in the series, I can't actually remember off the top of my head, so that might tell you a little something. But I hope to see more of it in the future. Again, it was a very, very fun franchise in my opinion, and I would love to buy another handheld device like the Game Boy just for a game like this. It's one of those games that's just super fun and immersive to get and play on the go.
Oh, did you know? It's in here somewhere. I read it earlier. I'll see if I can find it on the list while I'm talking, as well as I can read and scroll at the same time.
Ridley looks ugly in that picture, by the way.
Yeah, the cunning. They should have left Ridley with the original name, the cunning god of death.
So he's like,
but anyway, Samus Aran. Here it is. Fact 19. Samus Aran didn't become female until they were done with development.
So they did not know, basically.
Yeah,
they did not know what their baby was.
Yeah, Samus was not a girl until the very end. And I do remember it was hilarious. I was in a, believe it or not, Sears. Jeez. Whenever Super Metroid came out, and they had a demo of it. A demo of a Super Nintendo in a Sears. So that should tell you how long ago it is.
Oh, wow.
And there was a couple of kids playing it. And they must have been there all day because they played it and they actually beat it. And at the end, there's an ending you can get where basically Samus takes off her helmet. You can get where she's in a bikini. But, yeah, some of the SJWs are still nuts over that. But anyway, one of the endings, she pulls off her helmet. And the two guys are like, "Oh my God, Samus is a girl."
Wow.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, it's somebody running around in a spacesuit the whole time.
Yeah. Spacesuits can be camouflaging. Like, nobody has still ever seen Master Chief's face.
Yeah, Master Chief could be a girl.
Well,
kidding.
He's no Zyra, that's for sure. That's an Overwatch reference, by the way, in case nobody's played the game lately.
Well, I haven't played the game ever, so I didn't get it. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back and play it now. I can't keep it off my mind. Yeah,
well, before you play it, you've got another story.
Yes, I believe I do. Let me actually pay attention to it. You're
killing my segues, which are not very good to start with. Yeah, Raffle now.
Yeah, I've been watching that a lot lately. The Raffle now, which
you know he's still doing. He doesn't do those, but you know the Oxhorn guy.
Yeah,
basically does blogs, kind of like one-man podcast, I think.
Is that what he's doing now? I've been.
I haven't watched any of them, but I found his other channel and subscribed, and there's years worth of back content.
Really?
Yep.
Because I've wondered what he was doing since he last posted a video on his main Oxhorn channel on YouTube 2 years ago, which is surprising.
I think he didn't want to do the animation stuff anymore, and it was taking up more and more of his time. And if you don't want to do it, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, you can't always do the same thing forever. You got to keep moving on.
Bring up the links.
No, I got it right here.
Okay. Share your screen.
It's good to change it up once in a while, considering that content can get stale, you can get bored with it, or you just want to do something different. And people love Twitch. It's different from YouTube, and it's very popular right now. But there's also another service called Beam, which Microsoft just acquired recently, this week, I believe. And here's the tweet for it, which we'll also link into the description. On August the 11th, so 2 days ago, they announced that they were acquired by Microsoft. And I think this is going to be fun because, well, it might end up being an integrated streaming service with the gaming console that Microsoft owns and operates, which is the Xbox. And it's another service similar to Twitch, but apparently there's an interactive feature which you can spend your energy points here called Sparks to influence the stream. And I haven't got to really play with it yet since I've been extraordinarily busy this week, but it looks promising, and I can't wait to see more. So it's a good alternate to Twitch, potentially, especially with this Microsoft acquisition. It even has some big players on it already, like Monster Cat, a sort of EDM-style podcast that I tend to listen to a good bit. A little laggy right now, but yeah. What do you think?
So I like the idea of the interactive thing, but I mean, how is this really different from the Twitch Plays Pokemon channel? There's a bunch of Twitch Plays channels where you basically type in commands. I mean, this one has buttons you can click. So
typing in commands. I'm not familiar with that, actually.
Yeah, basically in the chat, you type like up, down, A, start. And it maps those commands. And basically, the initial Twitch Play Pokemon was hilarious because basically you just typed in up and it moved up. So people were typing all sorts of random stuff. And it was funny. They would like move to the right one and then slam their head against the wall 56 times. And then they'd open the menu and throw away a bunch of Pokemon.
I'm not sure which came first, the Twitch Play or the Beam, but on Twitter it shows them as joining September 2014. So that gives you a little glimpse into how old they may be. Yeah. But I find it more interesting that since there's been these acquisitions or attempts of acquisitions, like Amazon's attempt at Twitch, which I don't know if they ever succeeded with that. And YouTube also attempted to take over Twitch, but they certainly failed, and they have since created YouTube Gaming to compete with that system. And this makes one of several major players in that space, with Twitch being the biggest gaming streaming service and YouTube being the other elephant in the room.
Okay, well, I guess there's not a lot else to say on that because we haven't really played with it. I may stream some on it later and see how it comes up. But the next story is mine.
Yeah.
And well, I should have brought something up. I didn't have any graphics for it, but it's about Dragon Con. Anybody who goes to Dragon Con, if you want to have your host hotel, which is what you really want to do, you have the best experience, I think, in the host hotels, because you can basically go experience all of Dragon Con and then basically go until you drop, and then you just go to your room. I mean, that's literally you. So there's always an issue with it, and I just wanted to bring up my experience I've had. This year, we didn't go last year because we had some financial and timing issues. But for this year, we didn't have a host hotel. And they went through and released a whole bunch of rooms in the middle of June. I think it was June. And we jumped on it. Got in there, put our credit card in and everything. Well, today, at least the Westin, I think they all did, charged everybody's credit cards for the stay. That happens in September.
That's quite early.
Yeah, which is, to me, it's not that big of a deal. But the problem is, I wasn't expecting it to come on the card. What if I didn't have the money available?
Right. There's typically two things that I see happening with reservations for an event. They either charge you immediately when you sign up for it, so you can preserve it And if you fall out, maybe give you a refund later, or charge it as you use it, i.e., as the event happens.
Right.
Now,
Well, that's
this
completely.
is, yeah,
So what the hotels do normally here, they're a little different between each one, is you sign up for the room, they charge you a deposit for the first night.
right.
And then historically, when the event came up, they charged you, I think, when you arrived for the rest of it.
Right.
So, well, what they've done by charging people now is I guarantee you there's going to be a bunch of people who got caught off guard
Right.
and have lost their rooms.
Mm.
Because that's what happens. They try to charge once, and if it doesn't go through, they drop your reservation.
Ouch. Yeah.
So, although I will say this, because I haven't my Facebook feed, which I follow the Dragon Con hotel people on Facebook, it hasn't blown up yet about people losing rooms. And every time there's a big drop on rooms, there's a whole bunch of people complaining. So
Really, I wonder if
not.
a lot of people have not noticed yet, but I don't know.
Well, that's true, because if you try to run a credit card and it doesn't go through, you don't get notified normally.
I would imagine not, but then again, I haven't been in that scenario. But I think there should be like maybe a deposit initially and the rest as it happens, so it's more predictable, or at least more conventional as people would expect.
Right. So this
But
is
then
like
again, it's
2.5 weeks early.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah.
So I want to throw that out there in case somebody, lost a room. Whoops.
Oops, that would suck.
Yep. All right. Well, our final story is yours.
Yeah. Remember the whole Tesla death issue where the guy was driving his Tesla Model S on the Florida highway and basically T-boned a semi-trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this may have already been planned, but Tesla has now announced that they're working on Autopilot 2.0, which has more radars and 3 cameras now that will be installed as hardware on all new Model S and Model X's. But the software will still be Autopilot version 1.0 or 1 point whatever they're calling it in the meantime.
Right.
Excuse me. But yeah, it was previously hinted by a tweet from Elon Musk. And details are only starting to come out via certain outlets like Electric here, which is linked in the article via TechCrunch and Autoblog. But Musk wants this system using radar to be effective as LiDAR. And if people don't know, LiDAR is like radar, but using light, lasers, effectively, to build a point map system, which is quite effective in building a full 3-dimensional model.
Right. And it's also used mostly for the land. LiDAR, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. LiDAR is traditionally more effective than radar because radar uses a signal that will bounce around. LiDAR builds the point map, like I said. So it will shoot a laser and get an exact point with a distance, coordinates, and everything. It's like an XYZ coordinate. And yet it does that millions of times a second. So you have like millions of little dots. And if you've ever seen a point cloud in, say, AutoCAD, for example, it looks a lot like the real thing, but it's kind of like X-ray vision, where you can also kind of see through it a little bit. It's not like a full flat planar image. It's a bunch of little dots. So it's kind of like a mist when it's physically represented in a model. But it tells the machine that it's talking to, that there's stuff there. and how large that item is and how three-dimensional it is. But yes,
So
Musk,
basically, Tesla, in response to this accident, which I think is the only accident, is they're
trying to improve the technology.
They're improving the technology because of the recent accident.
Right. Which Tesla still claims that this technology, as it is already, is more of a safety feature than it is a hazard at all. Like they have said, the death rate for Tesla Model S drivers, or injury rate for that matter, or any crash whatsoever, is far below what the typical accident rate is of any car. And they do have some data to back it up. Now, granted, it's one specific or now two specific models, which I've seen several Model X's over the past few weeks in my neighborhood. It's a smaller sample, but it's also a high-end car, and it's a safe car. So the data will eventually prove it for better or for worse. But they still want to improve it. It's not a perfect system, and Tesla calls it a beta, whatever. Keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times because it may make mistakes.
Well, that and it's still the law everywhere.
Exactly. Now, there is another claim of a Tesla Model S getting in an accident recently. This time it's in China, though. But the details are still a little murky on that.
Okay, well.
And before I forget, sorry. A man recently claimed that a Tesla actually saved his life by taking him to the hospital when he told it to take him to the hospital, which is interesting. That has great potential.
I mean,
yeah,
that's what we're aiming for. Get in the car, tell it where you want to go.
Yep.
So
make it better, safer, faster, and stronger.
Right. Okay. Well, that's our last story. So I didn't really have anything else other than the question of the week. And I propose for this week the question be: do you think No Man's Sky for the PC was overhyped?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see many mixed answers over the next couple of weeks.
Well, maybe. I think I do not. I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 cents out there and say it was definitely not ready for prime time, just simply based on how many issues people are having. Now, I say this without actually playing it myself, but
And if you check the show notes, I did link a YouTube video that Total Biscuit, the cynical Brit, made on the subject, and he's always a highly recommendable source to look at for PC games and ports alike. He does not do port reports anymore, but he did one on this video, and he went into detail about how it's very subjective. Some people have the problem, some people don't, and PCs are vastly different machines from person to person.
Right. But I would expect a failure rate of, well, if you look at the reviews, the failure rate's pretty high.
Yeah, it's nearly a majority. Let's refresh the page and check again. It was 57% when we started, or 57% in favor of the game when we started. It's 57% now. It was 52% yesterday. So the jury is still out. It has not been 2 full days yet on the PC. So hopefully it gets better. Hopefully they actually expand the game and meet expectations of people everywhere.
All right. Well, anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode. If y'all liked what y'all heard and want to hear more, you can hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost a thing. It lets us know if we should keep doing this kind of content, or leave us a comment below, or even hit that dislike button if you think we suck. So, anyway, Well, I was Joe of the West.
And I am Zeal of Sparta.
And we will see all of y'all next week.
Bye-bye.